Hello everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And I will just start with a couple of announcements. So new courses that we have committed to video this year: PCOS, thyroid, food, exercise, and mental health, diabetes, time management, and cognitive health and Alzheimer's disease started this week, but you can pick up or next week, I guess it starts, and you can pick up the classes that you missed already on video. Alzheimer's disease is next, then your amazing microbiome, cannabis, and irritable bowel. So I teach these classes live and then commit them to video. So people who are the early enrollees get to take the class live from me, and then later on you get to take the class online. They all have assignments, and the assignments force you to learn more than even what I tell you in the lecture. So if you're interested in that, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. The Food Over Medicine coaching class course starts tonight. That's a combination of online classes and live classes, and trains you to set up a Food Over Medicine coaching business. We give you slides and materials so that you can teach the course itself, and you have the option of starting a Food Over Medicine chapter if you would like to do that. So I mentioned last week that we would do part 3 of the Dietary Guidelines Committee meeting last week when we had or a couple weeks ago now, when we had all the testimonies. So here goes. A large contingent of low-carb advocates also testified. They were, in large part, an angry bunch. I was appalled at the attitude, and the first thing that I thought is maybe they're just all constipated, which causes them to be so cranky. I don't know, but I was taken aback, frankly. One of the first ones that who testified is Dr. Priyanka Walley, a private practice physician. And she was very aggressive and started her presentation by telling the committee that the dietary guidelines are a joke, that the process of developing them is a joke. She was angry and confrontational as she reported successfully treating thousands of people with a low-carb diet, and stated that if you have diabetes, you're carb intolerant. She literally, at the end of her presentation, stormed out of the auditorium, like angry storming out of the auditorium. Obviously mad at the world over this issue. And I mean, I was looking at the people next to me and just, we were incredulous that anybody would think that the place that you start when you're trying to get somebody to accept your ideas is to be angry and confrontational. I mean, that was appalling. Nina Teicholz, the author of The Big Fat Surprise, told the committee that the current guidelines are not science-based and almost all good evidence points to low-carb eating. She rambled on and on and on, reading from a paper like this in a monotone, exceeded her time and had to be told to sit down. They had to interrupt her a couple of times. The most creative of all the presenters, I thought, was Dr. Darin Schmidt, a medical doctor from the deceptively named Nutritional Healing Center located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He promotes a low-carb diet to his patients, but his suggestion to the committee, get this, was to focus on macronutrients, carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and then let people choose the low-carb dietary pattern they prefer. So they could choose carnivore, paleo, keto, and plant-based as long as they were all low-carb. The benefit, and this is where I'm going to spell off my chair, he said the committee would not be upsetting any special interests if they did it this way. So everybody would be happy. The beef people, the fat people, the dairy, everybody would be happy. And I thought the purpose for this is to make sure that the special interests are happy. I mean, it was amazing. Dr. Georgine, a psychiatrist, believes that a healthy mind requires a good diet. So far, so good, but then he launches into the whole thing that a diet based on animal foods and high in fat is best, that nutrients are hard to get from plant foods, and plant foods contain anti-nutrients. So he thinks the keto diet is best for mental health. The continuing theme from the low-carb folks, and I won't go through all of them because they, like the animal groups that seem to have gotten together on this choline issue and you can't get nutrients from plants that you can get from animal foods, this group seemed to have a continuing theme, which was that the people in practice were all trying to help people, and they showed up and they've been all eating a plant-based diet, high-carbohydrate diet, they didn't say plant-based, high-carbohydrate diet, and exercising, and yet they were still overweight and diabetic. And then they put them on a low-carb diet, and magic happened immediately, and the people were better, and the weight fell off, and the diabetes went away, and it was just a magical thing. And it reminded me of when I read William Davis's Wheat Belly book. He claimed the same thing. He's in Milwaukee, and everybody going to William Davis is eating perfectly. They're eating a high-carb diet and exercise and can't lose weight. And so I want to see all these perfect eaters who are exercising. I mean, we don't see them here at all. We're one of the biggest companies in the world. So I wonder where they're all hiding, because we don't find them here. And when people do come in and they're eating a high carbohydrate diet, it's not a well-structured high carbohydrate. I mean, if you're eating toaster pastries and vegan junk food and that sort of thing, that's not the type of diet that we're promoting here. So Amy Lanoux had said during her presentation in the first video clip I did on this that the differentiation between sources of carbohydrates was important, and these people did not make that differentiation at all. Which brings me to my testimony, which I had put together in a very organized fashion, and I read the first page of it, and then I decided to go off script. And I said, I really feel compelled to comment on what has happened here today. I said, the first thing is I'm appalled at the lack of respect that was paid to the committee. For somebody to get up here and claim that this is a joke, I said, this isn't a joke, it's very serious. I take it very seriously, which is why I'm here today, and I'm offended on behalf of the committee. I said, the second thing that I said is that the low-carb promoters seem to think that any means is justified by a short-term end. In other words, they're not talking about following people for 20 years. If you adopt a bad diet, it takes 20 years to get cancer. You don't eat a lot of fat today and by next January you have cancer. It takes a long time for that to happen. And for the other bad things that happen from eating a diet that is not appropriate for humans. And I said, if we're basically going to open the door, and I actually said this, to almost anything that produces this weight loss and low glucose levels, I'm going to suggest something: cocaine addiction. I said, we've never had a cocaine addict in our office who was overweight and had high fasting glucose levels. I said, I'm being facetious, of course, but I'm doing it on purpose, because if any means is justified by the end, where do you stop? Okay, where do you stop? And so I encourage the committee to take the long-term view and respectfully ask that they consider a plant-based diet as the best diet for humans. Another thing that I said is that if starch and carbohydrate are as bad as these people have told you, then the Okinawans and 2 billion Asians never got the memo. The Okinawans are living on sweet potatoes and rice and plant foods. They don't know that you're supposed to gain weight and become diabetic as a result of eating those foods. So the misrepresentation from the low-carb promoters, many of whom had very impressive credentials, was truly, truly frightening. And I'm just appalled, absolutely appalled. So that is the very messy, almost insane process of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee and how this all works. What happens next is that the Dietary Guidelines Committee will continue to meet. They seek input, we can send written testimony and follow-up information. At some point in time, they will come out with preliminary guidelines and analysis, and everybody will have an opportunity to comment on that. And then they'll come out with final guidelines, and if things go the way they usually go, Physicians Committee will probably sue them because of not following the guidelines. Every time the Physicians Committee is won, so I'm sure that they're looking forward to that. But anyway, I think it's important for the consumer out there to know what goes on, that no wonder everybody's confused. You have people from prestigious academic centers like Cornell talking about low-carb diets. You have committee members that are appointed by the Egg Board. I mean, it's enough to make your head hurt. Glad I did it. Happy to participate and do my part. And by the way, just so you know, they don't pay our expenses. They don't pay for your time to do this. This is just doing your civic duty to show up and contribute. So applause for everybody who contributes in the process. It's an important thing. It's a messy, important thing. All right, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. And as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think will enjoy reading it. And I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.